Data types are very important in any programming language, especially for beginners. If you don't understand this properly, you might mess things up. Now you are on my video, it's my responsibility to make it simple and easily understandable for you. Hello everybody, I am Kaushik, and in this video I am going to talk about data types in Python programming, so keep watching. Let's start with what is data type and why it is important in programming. If I say hello or how are you, you know that those are the words. If I say 10, you will definitely recognize that it's a number, right? And if I pass the same value to a computer won't recognize them. And that's why we need to tell a computer that hello and how are you are the words or combination of words and 10 is a number, so that computer can understand them and perform operations accordingly. And to tell this to a computer, we can use data types. In Python, we have multiple data types. We have none, numeric, list, tuple, set, string, dictionary and range. In the numeric data type, we have integer, float, complex and boolean. So let's start with none data type. None data type don't store any value in the memory. It just define a variable. Whenever I only want to define any variable for later use, I can assign the none for that variable. Here I am defining variable a equal to none. As you can see, shell is executed successfully. Now let me show you by printing the value of variable a. So here I got none in the output. If I want to check the data type of any variable in Python, I can simply use type function. It's an inbuilt Python function that allows to check the data type for all the variables and values. Here I got none type in the output. Now let's move to the numeric data type. In numeric, first we have integer. All the natural numbers are considered as an integer data type in Python. 1, 10, 100, 200, all the natural numbers are included. Here I am defining variable b equal to 20. Now if I check the type of variable b, here I got int in the output. That means Python has assigned integer data type for variable b. Negative numbers are also considered as an integer data type. Here I have defined new variable c equal to -10, and when I check the type of variable c, it gives me an integer, as you can see. In Python, when we are working with decimal numbers, it's considered as a float data type instead of an integer. So here I have variable d equal to 10.5. Now let's check the type of d. So it printed float in the output. So that's float data type. When we have decimal numbers in value, that is considered as a float data type. Most people think that float is more accurate compared to integer because float support decimal numbers. But the reality is, when the number is get bigger, integer is more accurate compared to float. Here we have two variables x and y. Both have same values, and I have printed x plus 1 equal to x and y plus 1 equal to y. And as we have seen, values without decimal number is considered as an integer data type. So x as an integer data type and y as a float data type. And as you can see in the output, we have false for the integer value and true for the float value. So keep that in mind. Integer is more accurate compared to float. Next we have complex. Remember, we have complex numbers in maths, a plus bi and like that. We can also implement the same concept with Python complex data type. Here we need to use j instead of I. So here I am defining e equal to 5 plus 6j. And now let's check the type. As you can see, we have complex in the output. Next we have boolean data type. It is like a switch on and off. Instead of on off, we can use true and false here. Boolean data type is also known as a binary data type because we can use 0 and 1 instead of true and false. Boolean data type is mostly used in conditional statements to make some decisions. So let's check some conditions here. I am checking 5 is greater than 6, so it return false here because it's not. Now if I check the 5 is less than 6, then it will return true as expected. Next we have a list data type. To define a list in Python, we first need to give a name for that list. Here I am giving name lst, and to define a list in Python, we can use square brackets, and in the brackets we can define values. So we have list here. We can store all kind of values in a single list, whether it's an integer, float, string, boolean data type, anything. So here we have list. So if I check the type of lst, I will get list in the output, as you can see, as expected. Next we have tuple. To define a tuple in Python, we can use round brackets like this, and in the brackets I can define values. So here we have tuple, and if I check the type of TPL, I will get the tuple in the output, as you can see here. Next we have set data type. To define a set in Python, as always, give a name and then in the curly bracket we can define its value. So here we have list, tuple and set. For the list we can use square brackets, for the tuple we can use round brackets, and for the set we can use curly brackets. Next we have string data type. String is a combination of multiple characters or multiple words we can say. To define a string in a Python, give a variable name and in the single quote or a double quote define its value. I am defining str equal to Kaushik. Now if I check the type of str, as you can see I got str in the output, which is a string data type. These both are the variable name and this is a string data type, so don't be confused here. Next we have dictionary. To access any value from list, tuple or set, we can use its index values. Index values are unique for all the values in list, tuple or set, but in a dictionary, instead of an index value, we have keys here. We can define key for all the values, and just like index values, key must be a unique for all the values. We can define same value with multiple different keys in dictionary, so key must be unique in dictionary. To define a dictionary, we can also use curly brackets. So here I am defining dictionary D and its value. First we have key and then colon and then we can define its value. So as you can see here we have key 1 and its value is value 1. First value we have key 1 and value 1. Next we have key 2 and value 2. If I want to access any values from a dictionary, I can use key instead of index values. So here I am trying to access value of key 1. So I can write D and in this square bracket I can pass its key. So here I got value 1 in the output. Have you noticed that we have also used D for another variable here? So in Python, whenever we change the value of any variable, Python will change its data type accordingly. Next we have range. Range is mostly used in loops to iterate to a value. To define a range, we can use range function. It can take 1, 2 and 3 arguments. Whenever I pass one argument, it considered as an endpoint of that range with 2 arguments. First argument is for starting position and next argument is ending position. And whenever we are passing 3 arguments, then third argument for skip, how many numbers I want to skip. When we define range with one argument, it will take default values for other 2 arguments. For the starting point, default value is 0 and for the skipping characters, it's 1. If I pass 2 in the last, it will skip one character and print next to next character. If I pass 3, it will skip 2 characters and print the next one. Here I am defining range with 2 values, 0 and 10. Let me put this in a list so that you can see the values. So here we have list. If I check the type of range, it will return range. As you can see, I got range in the output. If you have any question or doubts, you can comment down below. If you want the link of this Google Colab, you can find in the description box. And that's it for this video. And thank you for watching.